business model was first introduced into the field of economics in the middle of the last century and has since attracted increasing interest. Over the years, authors have tried to describe the concept in terms of its components or building blocks. Today, the concept of a business model is perceived as increasingly essential by managers and academics, and is a useful as well as a necessary tool for being clear about how a company can define how it creates, distributes, and collects value. So, what is a business model? A business model describes the logics according to which an organization operates, creates, distributes, and harvests value. In other words, it is the set of organizational and strategic solutions through which the enterprise gains a competitive advantage. In 2010, Alexander Osterwalder, in his book Business Model Generation, developed a framework for representing the business model that goes by the name Business Model Canvas. The canvas is presented in a unified, simple, and intuitive way that allows for interaction and iteration, thus being significantly attractive. The business model canvas consists of 9 building blocks that can be aggregated into 3 main blocks, namely the first, value proposition and customer interface, the second, value network, and the third, economic model. The macro block, value proposition and customer interface, include value proposition, which expresses the value of the products and services that the company is able to provide to the customer to satisfy their need. Customer interface, which expresses the target customers, the way in which they are reached, and the ways in which relationships are established with them. The value network macro block includes key partners, key activities, and key resources, with which the company supports the creation of its value proposition toward the customer. Finally, the third, the economic model macro block, includes the cost structure and the revenue streams. Although the theoretical discussion of circular business model is still ongoing, there are numerous approaches emerging from practitioners that offer tools to practice designing circular business model. Among those most frequently adopted, we will focus our attention on the Circulab canvas. The Circulab canvas consists of 10 blocks and runs from left to right. Through the evaluation of a number of aspects associated with the single blocks and subsequent reiteration, the goal of the compilation is to achieve internal consistency within the model. The first step starts with the identification of the function of the product service, and thus it is necessary to define what needs are being met, that is, what customers are paying for. With the second step, we then proceed to define the activities and partners needed to develop the business model, which are needed to provide the product and the service. The third step then takes into consideration the various sources needed for each stage of the product life cycle that must be then defined. The central part of a circular business model canvas is based on identifying the resources needed to deliver the product to the customers. A distinction must be made between natural, technological, and energy resources. For each of these, it is necessary to ask whether or not they can be circulated within the model. If yes, it should be analyzed to see whether the resources can be cascaded, circulated, biodegraded, etc. The fourth step, at this point, the user experience must be redesigned, the customers or context for which the company creates value. It is necessary to design the value proposition based on the resources and the model in which the product or service is delivered, consistent with circular economy principles. In the fifth step, it is necessary to explicitly design the ways through which delivering and recollecting the product. In doing so, the distribution and logistics systems are properly designed. Specifically, distribution deals with defining how to reach the customers, while recollecting deals with defining how we bring resources back at the end of the life. At the sixth step, one must evaluate the economic flows at each stage of the business model. Then it must be verified that the model has economic feasibility, that is, that the revenue streams are consistent with the cost structure of the model. Economic equilibrium is a go-no-go phase. In the 7 steps, externalities should be considered to reduce negative ones or turn them into positive one. Example of negative externalities can be the reverse logistic part that is added to our chain. It has a potential negative impact on emission generated by the company. While, on the other hand, positive externality is if the logistics of importing virgin materials reduce the original consumption of natural resources. Environmental balance is not really a go-no-go phase, but may require considering a set of alternatives. And so, in a nutshell, how do we define a circular business model? Everything starts with defining the function, activities, and partners for creating the value to be delivered. It is then necessary to account for a resource list and how to circulate them. Must be then address the value proposition and define target customers, considering maximizing resource utilization. Then follows the definition of the distribution network so that it is possible to reach customers and the way to recollect products. This process must be repeated until all the pieces turn out to be consistent. A logical relationship is maintained between the different blocks and internal consistency of the model is achieved, with economic feasibility achieved.